Hello, TradingView community. Welcome to my new analysis about BXY. And with BXY, there happened some major developments that I spotted within my analytics dashboard, within my analytics backend. And because of this, today I am analyzing the BXY index. And there are actually some important developments that should not be underestimated in any cases here for the BXY. Why? Because there are several important determinations that need to be mentioned here. First of all, the inflation within the BXY region is at historical highs, and this means that the interest rates within the BXY region are still going higher and higher and higher. Lastly, the interest rates within the BXY region have increased to 5.25%. This means that the interest rates are at historical high levels, lastly seen within the financial crisis of 2008. And this means that there are crucial bearish underlying indications that should not be underestimated in any cases here, especially forming this high bearish pressure towards the downside, this high bearish momentum towards the downside, pulling back off this major bearish distribution channels and showing up with the high bearish pressure developments towards the downside, increasing with this high bearish pressure towards the downside. Furthermore, there are also other economic grievances within the BXY region why this index happened to show up with the bearish pressures towards the downside. There's also a major stagnation within the economy because the productivity is stagnating together with wage stagnations. This means that the private loan demand is increasing heavily, and this is also a major bearish indication that should not be underestimated for the BXY. And now, here within this upper distribution channel, the BXY actually forms crucial developments as it bounces into this upper distribution channel once again and pull it back from there bearishly towards the downside, showing up with these heavy bearish pressures towards the downside, pulling back similar movements as it already developed within the past times with the BXY moving into these upper determinations. And these are major crucial developments that should not be underestimated in any cases here. The BXY already formed these heavy bearish pressures after consolidating here within the upper distribution channel and then breaking towards the downside. Now, this exact fractal is forming once again. The BXY is consolidating here within the distribution channel. This means that there's a high likelihood possibility that this breakout below the major second fractal bearish distribution channel happens within the next times, together with the stagnating economy and high inflation rates, high interest rates at historically high levels. This means that the loan demand is increasing further within the next times and has a high likelihood possibility to show up with this heavy breakout towards the downside within the next times. Also, what has to be mentioned here, the BXY is forming this ascending trend line within this whole structure. And this is a crucial formation that the BXY is actually forming here. This is a major ascending triangle formation, and such a ascending triangle formation should not be underestimated in any cases, because such a ascending triangle formation is actually the setup for a major bearish reversal in a vast majority of times. And therefore, as the BXY already formed the breakout below the lower boundary of this gigantic ascending triangle formation, this is actually a crucial setup from where the BXY pull it back further towards the downside and actually validated this gigantic ascending triangle formation with the breakouts towards the downside. And now the next confirmational formation is setting up here once the final breakout below the lower boundaries of this distribution channel has shown up. And in this case, it has to be also mentioned that the BXY is actually forming a important target determination here, as it already completed this ascending triangle towards the downside. It already activated initial targets here within the wall structure. The initial target zones are within the 115 area, and once the breakout below this distribution fractal bearish determination channel has been shown up within the next times, this will be the first target of this whole ascending triangle formation. And when considering this gigantic descending channel formation that is actually forming here with the BXI forming these bearish breakdowns towards the downside, this is a major formation that is actually setting up the next bearish wave C towards this direction. This is a huge wave C towards the bearish directions, especially as the BXY has completed this ascending trend line towards the lower direction. This is going to set up this major determination towards these directions, especially when the major breakouts below this descending triangle developments have shown up. And therefore, this is the major next determination that should be not underestimated here within this whole structure. This will be such a huge bearish pressure development with completing this wave C towards these directions. And in this case, once this wave C below the 115 area actually has shown up, this is going to activate the further bearish determinations, especially when the private loan sector pressure increases further within the next times, when the private loan demand increases further within the next times, and the interest rates increase to further historical levels lastly seen within the financial crisis of 2008. This means that this is a major bearish indication that is likely to push the prices below the 115 area and to continue with these bearish developments here. Also, when considering this gigantic formational structure, it is going to exaggerate the major wave C within this whole structure and actually show up with these heavy bearish exaggerations towards the lower levels. And in this case, once this major wave C has shown up, this is going to activate the major target determinations within the lower boundary of this whole structure. And in this case, it has to be mentioned that this could be just the beginning of a further bearish determination towards the downside, because what happens in this case is that once the BXY actually has formed the breakouts below the 102 area, below this area, there will be much more bearish determinations below this area, because there's a huge bearish determination in this case that is likely to set up the next bearish waves towards these levels, especially once the BXY has formed a new lower low within this whole structure below the 102 area. Therefore, this current dynamic should not be underestimated in any cases. This bearish pressure is so high, determined by the price action pulling back from the upper boundaries and showing up with these heavy determinations within this whole structure. And within the next times, it has to be mentioned that once the breakouts below this distribution channel happen within the next times, this is going to activate the further mentioned determinations, and there's not of a high possibility that this wall formational structure into the bearish direction will be invalidated. Nonetheless, there are still possibilities that when inflation calms down and interest rates also decrease to moderate levels, as well as the stagflation events within the DXY region also calm down, this could be a trigger of a potential reversal. However, currently, this is not a really high possibility, and currently, this is not a really realistic scenario. Therefore, this is a major determination that should be considered here, as BXY already completed this crucial severe ascending triangle formation with the bearish breakouts and is already moving here within this major bearish distribution channel and showing up with the final breakouts within the next times. Therefore, this is such a huge determination. This is why I am taking the BXY on my watch list and consider upcoming determinations within the next times. And within this case, it will be great when you follow, like, and comment my project. And therefore, bye bye.